Alright, Equalify members. Okay, you just bought Equalify, you just downloaded it, you just installed it, super easy. So far it's been a walk through the park and you've had nothing that was too hard to do. What you're going to do is you're going to open up Spotify. Once you have Spotify open, you're like, where's the plugin? I just bought this and I don't know where it's at. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to play any song, and that initializes Equalify. You'll see up here at the very top where it says File Edit View, there'll be some green bars at the very top. Click on that, and then you'll get your draggable, movable EQ. I would suggest to make sure that the equalizer, the analyzer is turned on. Let's check out the settings real quick. The GUI, if you like, you can enable the resizing window, but the larger windows will use a lot more CPU. If you have a good processor, go ahead, resize it to 4K and see what happens. Just kidding, don't do that. Lower FPS if you have a really bad 1-core 1 gigahertz CPU. I would suggest to enable that. And then enable deleting bands while dragging bands out of the window. I'll show you that here in a minute, but I keep that off because I just rather right click. Audio mono output. If you're not listening with stereo, I would suggest to do a mono output so everything sounds good. The device changer. What you can do is you can make it so that next time, if you want to go to line 1 for some reason today, and when you restart Spotify, you want it to go back to your primary sound driver, you can uncheck make this device selection permanent. For the most part, I really don't care. I just change it as willy-nilly. We'll get a little bit back into this in studio. Alright, so that's for the most part everything we need to know. We're going to put that back there and click apply. Close it. And what we did was we made it so we could resize this window to make it larger. Right? Alright. So up here we got reset. This is to delete bands or reset the actually it's not to delete presets. I don't know how you delete presets. It's to reset the EQ back to default. Just a flat line, willy-nilly. This is your gain. This is to raise and lower your gain if you get any distortion. And now for the fun part. Let's get into a little bit of navigation of the actual EQ before we get into editing bands. So if I scroll wheel basically anywhere in here, it will make the unit of measure larger or smaller over here on the right. So we can go from negative 14 to 13 decibels to 1 decibel basically. So we can really fine grain our bands. Now if you go down here and you scroll wheel on these little, basically just this little line right here, you'll zoom in on one side or the other. It doesn't like completely remove it from your vision. It just makes it really small in the low end and vice versa over here. This will be easier to see with bands on the EQ. To make your first band, you'll double click and super easy. You'll make a nice little peak band. If you right click, you can toggle it on and off if you want to hear what it sounds like with and without it. You can change the type. Low pass will make it so that only low sounds will go through, and you can move it anywhere. So if you want to, I don't know why you would do a low pass here, but most time low pass is in this area. A high pass. Sorry, high pass. So if you want to hear some high sounds, if you want to try to isolate some sounds, be like, where's that sound coming from, so I can get rid of it. There's your high pass. A band pass is basically a notch almost of just what's inside of this area. A notch is the opposite of a band pass. It's everything outside of this area. A peak is what we saw earlier when we first made it. That's default. A low shelf is, as it comes up to this, it will just flatline to anywhere it needs to go. Same with going lower as well. A high shelf, same thing, just the opposite direction. So you can raise your highs or lower your highs. Another thing let's get into is if you right click and go to Q width, you can type in a value between 0.005 and 5 to change the arc of this Q. That is obsolete, and the best and easiest way now is to right click on the dot and then just drag to the left, drag to the right. So this will just basically change the arc of the line. So if we add another one, just got to remember that it's gonna change the arc of that one as well. This back to normal-ish. I think 1 is default. Something like that. All right, colors. Because we all don't like to make our things so bland. So you can change basically any color. Default Equalify has it set up here. I prefer to lower it just a little bit so it's a little bit more prominent. Doesn't really matter. Click OK, changes it. Pretty nice, pretty sweet. Set color. I can go yellow. Okay. Yeah, want it yellow. So that is that. That's the basics of the EQ, how to use this EQ. Let's see, is there anything else? Alright, and here is where I said that you could see the the zooming left and right easier. Give me a second. Low shelf. That here, and I'll put a high shelf right here. Now, if I zoom, you'll see that that high shelf gets longer and longer and longer. That's because that when I'm over here, that includes, 15, 20K all the way over 20K hertz. 10K, 15, and then I think 20 is somewhere over here. So yeah, you'll zoom in, and if you notice that low shelf got really tiny. So yeah, let me show you a quick, what's it called? A quick rock filter. I know a lot of you guys have been requesting, a rock filter. Super easy, and you guys can play with it, mess with it a little. Go to a low shelf on this notch and put it about, I don't know, 100, between 100 and 120 hertz, maybe 5 decibels. It's up to you. Come over here and around 5K or so, make another filter, but make it a high shelf, and I like to raise this around 6. So that is a nice rock filter, super easy, super simple. Before you would have to go and adjust each frequency as needed, but this is super easy. The curve just goes where it needs to, which is basically a high bass, high treble boost. Now when you do this, you might want to make sure that your, it's up to you. Actually, it's personal preference. If you make sure that in advanced, right here where it says, where am I? Right here it says set the same volume level for all tracks. If you have this off, it kind of helps you with getting the actual sound of every song. And with that off, you might need to change your gain a little. If you go +5, you might want to go -5 here so that you don't get into distortion and clipping. Because if these analyzer levels go above right here where it says -dB or 0 dB, I should say, and then everything else is negative. If it goes positive dB, you're gonna start entering into the distortion range, which it's not the best thing for audio. I mean, it's not gonna hurt anything. It's just not gonna sound good. Let's go into presets. So you just click down. I have one here called Bass High Chris, which I didn't know at the time is a rock filter. So if you want to add another one, just go ahead and move your presets or your bands to wherever you want them. Anywhere you want them. You can, guys, you can add unlimited bands until your computer crashes, which I doubt it will crash ever. Because all this stuff is moving this line back and forth, which really doesn't do anything. Maybe it does. Maybe you can get some really good control over this. Yeah, I guess it does give you a lot more control. Click just this little plus sign, name it Craziness, and click OK. And you'll have that band anytime you need it. You go back to High Chris, be like, yeah, whoop whoop, let's go crazy. And then boom, you're back to Craziness. So it's super easy. At this point in time, I'm not exactly sure. Oh yeah, no, you highlight what you want to delete, and then click the delete key, and then it'll ask you if you want to delete it. Click OK. Sure, I will. Yeah, I'll delete it. And then you got back to your stuff. Your stuff. Anyways, so that is how to use this EQ. The next video will be how to use an EQ. Like, what is an EQ? What is it used for? How I can blend and make my sounds and my music sound amazing. That will be in the next video on how to use an EQ. Alright, I will see you guys later.